How do you know the difference between earthly and man's wisdom and God's wisdom? What's the difference between the expert opinion of people and what God says that we should do? How do you know the difference between those things? All right, today's proverb, today's Wisdom and Riddle is King Solomon giving us a little clue how to know the difference between these two things. This is Proverbs 18, verse 4. It says this: "The words of a man's mouth are deep waters. The fountain of wisdom is a bubbling brook." All right? The words of a man's mouth are deep waters. Okay, so the person's mouth are deep waters. However, the fountain of wisdom is a bubbling brook. Now, Solomon would have known the difference between all the expert knowledge that had filled the earth, because he was a man of science. He learned. He spent time studying. He would have known the difference between all that subject matter expertise and when God spoke to him and gave him wisdom from above, okay? And so if anybody knows it, it's Solomon. He said, basically, people have an unending source of words. There is an unending capacity for people to be able to communicate. And really, truthfully, every person, we get passionate about subjects. There are probably things that you know, and you show up at a party and you are the expert on that subject at that party. And if we properly provoked you, we could get you to talk about that subject matter, maybe for a long duration. Or the opposite is true. Like if it's unprovoked, you could end up maybe this has happened to you. Don't admit it if it is. All right. If you could get trapped in a conversation. Have you ever been at a party or a gathering where you got locked in with the subject matter expert, and you're not asking, it's just coming at you. It's flowing at you with these deep waters, torrents of words coming at you. So your eyes look desperately around the room for a friend who could come rescue out of the conversation. We all sort of know that situation, okay? The reality is that man has capacity to communicate, to know things, to be experts on subjects, but it doesn't necessarily mean they know what to do. Okay, because there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. Wisdom is knowing what to do. So you could be an expert in knowledge, but not actually know the right course of action, okay? There's a benefit to knowing a lot about stuff. The world looks at you as an expert and often will seek your opinion on that subject when we have a problem. So in times of crisis, the world shoves subject matter experts onto the stage, and we all have the question, what should we do? However, like I just said, knowing lots of stuff doesn't always mean that you have wisdom for the correct course of action. But in the world's eyes, what qualifies you to tell us what to do is that you know more about it than other people. What is unfortunate, however, is the historical perspective. Because in history, it is filled with political leaders who have used subject matter experts as their tool to manipulate their own agendas. This proverb, it talks about and describes the difference between that and what heavenly wisdom is. It describes wisdom as being a bubbling brook. So knowing what to do is going to actually come out as a bubbling brook, something simple. It means that it's not complicated. A bubbling brook speaks of the purity of it, right? It's easy to communicate. It doesn't require a lot of words to communicate. It's so simple that it rolls off the tongue and that your child could probably repeat and understand what you're trying to say. So here's the question for you. How do you know the difference between when a person possesses God's wisdom and versus the natural conclusions that we come to because we have so much knowledge in a subject? Perhaps they could line up, but often they don't. So here is the wisdom and riddle for today. Here is sort of the punchline of this thing. If it takes a PhD expert to explain it, then it is most likely man's attempt, their best attempt, to control the outcome of something. However, God's wisdom, the book of James says that it's not complicated, it is pure, it is excellent, it is clear, it's reasonable, and it is not hypocritical. So when you recognize hypocrisy in the subject matter expert's advice, then you know it's not wisdom. It's somebody's best attempt to control. The punchline of this is that if heaven's wisdom has come upon you, then even the littlest of children could articulate and explain it to you, because it's pure, it's honest, and it's simple. All right, there you go. There is the difference between man's wisdom and God's wisdom, between expertise that attempts to control or wisdom that is pure and excellent and will actually lead to good outcomes. All right, God bless you guys. Have an amazing, amazing day.